In the last class, I had talked about the different phases of eukaryotic cell cycle and its checkpoints. Today, I will be talking about the molecular events happening in each phase of cell cycle as well as the mechanisms that regulate cell cycle. The process of cell cycle entry is well understood in budding yeast, and it was in this organism that the molecular mechanisms underlying cell cycle transition were initially elucidated. So in these sections, we will be looking the molecular events that govern cell cycle entry in budding yeast as well as the similarity between methogens. In budding yeast, CLN3 CDK activity rises during G1 and it's controlled by nutrient ability. Once sufficiently active, the kinase phosphorylates the transcriptional repressor WHI5, promoting its export from the nucleus. This causes the transcription factor complex SBF to induce transcription of the G1 phase cyclin genes, CLN1 and CLN2, and of other genes whose products are needed for DNA replication. G1S phase CDKs further phosphorylate WHI5, promoting further CLN1 and CLN2 transcription. Once sufficiently high levels of G1S phase CDKs have been produced, start phase is transverse. After this, cells enter the cell cycle, initiating DNA replication, bud formation, and spindle pole body duplication. In the case of vertebrates, G1 CDK activity rises during G1 and is stimulated by the presence of growth factors. When signaling from growth factors is sustained, the resulting cyclin D CDK4/6 complex begin phosphorylating RB, releasing some E2F, which stimulates transcription of the genes encoding cyclin A, CDK2, and E2 itself. The cyclin A CDK complexes further phosphorylate RB, resulting in a positive feedback loop that leads to a rapid rise in the expression and activity of both E2F and cyclin E CDK2. Once G1S phase CDKs are sufficiently high, cells pass to the restriction point. They commence DNA replication and centrosome duplication. Entry into S phase is defined by the unwinding of origins of DNA replication. G1S phase CDKs play an essential role in this process. They turn off the machinery that degrades S phase cyclins during exit from mitosis and G1, and they induce the degradation of CKI that inhibits S phase CDKs. And this degradation of inhibitors mainly done by G1SKR, CDH1 and SIK1. CDH1 is mainly for the exit from mitosis and G1, and SIK1 is for the induction of S phase CDK. So let's see the regulation of S phase and mitotic cyclin levels in budding yeast. In late anaphase, the anaphase promoting complex ubiquitinates S phase and mitotic cyclins. The activity of this ubiquitin protein ligase is directed toward mitotic cyclins by a specific factor called CDH1. CDH1 activity is regulated by phosphorylation. During exit from mitosis and G1, CDH1 is dephosphorylated and active. During S phase and mitosis, CDH1 is phosphorylated and dissociates from APCC, and APCC becomes inactive. The G1S phase CDKs, which themselves are not APC CCDH substrates, phosphorylates CDH1 at the G1 S phase transition. A specific phosphatase called CDC14 removes the regulatory phosphate from specific factor late in anaphase. Now we will check the control of S phase in yeast. The S-phase cyclin CDKase prevents initiation of DNA replication until the cells have completed all G1 events. The G1 S-phase CDKase assemble in late G1 phosphorylates SIC1 at multiple sites, but the minimum phosphorylation level should be 6. Marking for the ubiquitin degradation pathway, now as the inhibitor is subjected to the ubiquitin degradation pathway, the active S-phase CDKase trigger DNA synthesis by phosphorylating and recruiting MCM helicase activities to origin of DNA replication. Let's see the molecular mechanisms that governs during the initiation of DNA replication. During exit from mitosis and early Z1, when the level of S-phase CDK activity is low, the MCM loading factors ORC, CD6 and CDT1 load the replicative helicase, the MCM complex, onto DNA at replication origins. As the cells enter the S-phase, there is the activation of S-phase CDK. With the activation of S-phase CDK, they phosphorylate the MCM helicase SLD2 and SLD3 to facilitate the loading of MCM helicase activators, the CDC45 SLD3 and GINS complex, onto the sites of replication initiation. Loading of these activators leads MCM helicase to unwind DNA, followed by the recruitment of DNA polymerases to origins, which lead to the initiation of DNA synthesis. The main reason why the loading of replicative helicase MCM complex happens only in the exit from mitosis and early Z1 is due to that S-phase CDKase prevent reloading of MCM helicases by phosphorylating CD6 and CDT1, promoting their release from the replication origins and degradation by SCF, as well as S-phase CDKase also phosphorylate MCM helicases, which leads to their export from the nucleus when the helicases disengage from the DNA when replication is complete. Once S-phase has been completed, the entire genome has been duplicated. The pairs of duplicated DNA chromosomes, the sister chromatids, are segregated to the future daughter cells. This process requires not only the formation of the apparatus that facilitates this segregation, the mitotic spindle, but essential a complete remodeling of the cell. Chromosomes condensed and attached to the mitotic spindle, the nuclear envelope is disassembled, and almost all organelles are rebuilt or modified. All these events are triggered by mitotic CDKase. Mitotic cyclin CDKase initiate mitosis, whereas levels of the catalytic CDK subunit are constant throughout the cell cycle. Mitotic cyclins gradually accumulate during S phase. So let's see how the activation of mitotic cyclin CDK happens. Mitotic cyclins are synthesized during S phase and G2 and bind to CDK. However, the cyclin CDK complex is not active because the threonine 14 and tyrosine 15 of the CDK subunit are phosphorylated by the protein kinase V1. Once DNA replication has been completed, the protein phosphatase CDC25 is activated and dephosphorylates CDK1. Active mitotic CDKase further stimulate CDC25. At the same time, mitotic CDKase inhibit V1, the protein kinase that places the inhibitory phosphorylation on the CDK subunit. Ongoing DNA replication inhibits CDC25 activity How CDC25 is initially activated upon completion of DNA replication to put this feedback mechanism loops is in motion is not yet. Cell size also affects this regulatory loop. Once cell reaches the appropriate size, CDR2 inhibits V1, allowing CDC25 to activate mitotic CDK. Till anaphase, the sister chromatids are held together by cohesin linkage. Cohesin complexes form rings that link sister chromatids by embracing the two sister DNA molecules. Let's see how cohesins are loaded onto DNA and acquire their cohesive properties. First, the cohesins are loaded onto chromosomes during Z1 by the cohesin loading complex SCC2, SCC4, but they do not possess cohesive properties. In these states, cohesins are dynamic and can dissociate from the DNA with the help of PDS5 WAPI complex, which associates with cohesins. Concomitant with DNA replication, closely behind the replication fork, cohesins are converted into cohesive molecules able to hold sister chromatids together or through acetylation of SMC3 by cohesin acetylase transferase. Acetylation is accompanied by the binding of sororin to cohesin, which helps stabilize cohesins on chromosomes. During Z2, sister chromatids are replicated and linked all their entire length by cohesins. During this time, the MEI S332 sugosin proteins recruit the protein phosphatase 2A to centromeric regions. In vertebrates, cohesins are released from chromosome arms during prophase and early metaphase by the action of the PDS5 Web1 complex and phosphorylation of cohesins by polokinase and Aurora B kinase. By the end of metaphase, cohesins are retained only in the region of centromere where MEI S332 sugosin prevents cohesin phosphorylation and hence dissociation, recruiting PP2A. So, in order to complete anaphase, cells need to cleave this cohesin binding. So, let's see how this cohesin cleavage happens. Separase A protease that cleave the SCC1 subunit of cohesin complexes is inhibited before anaphase by the binding of securin. With the activation of mitotic CDK inhibits separase by phosphorylating it. When all the kinetochores have attached to spindle microtubules and the spindle apparatus is properly assembled and oriented, the CDC specific factor associated with APCC directs it to ubiquitinylate securin and mitotic cyclins. Following securin degradation and a decrease in mitotic activity, the release and dephosphorylated separase cleaves the SCC1 subunit, breaking the cohesive circles and allowing sister chromatids to be pulled apart by the spindle apparatus that is pulling them towards the opposite spindle poles. As it is followed by the mitotic CDK inhibitions, the mitotic CDK inhibition is mainly happen by two mechanisms. In most organisms, it is done by APCC-CDT mediated degradation of mitotic cyclins, and in the case of yeast, it is done by the mechanism of SIC1 and APCC. As with the inactivation of mitotic CDK, there is indication of telophase and cytokinesis. So in the next slide, we will see how the inactivation of mitotic CDK leads to telophase and cytokinesis. With the inactivation of mitotic CDK, there is dephosphorylation of condensin, histone H1 chromatin associated proteins, which leads to the decondensed chromosome in telophase, as well as the reformation of nuclear envelope. First, as we already know that cytokinesis is brought about by a contractile ring made up of actin and actin motor myosin. So few hypotheses are put by different researchers. The most common three are signals from the spindle mid-zone, position of cleavage furrow with respect to the spindle pole position, as well as, and the most accepted one is the mitotic cell cycle cyclin inactivation. This slide summarizes all the molecular events and mechanisms happening during the cell cycle. So let's check first. In the Z1S phase cyclin CDKs inactivate CDH1. Z1S phase CDKs activate expression of S-plane cyclin CDK components. The Z1S phase cyclin CDK phosphorylate S phase inhibitor, which makes allow the entry of cell into the Z1S phase. When the cells are about to enter to the S phase, the S phase CDKs are inhibited by the inhibitor SSIC1, but the inhibition is removed by SA proteasome degraded phosphorylated S phase CDK inhibitor. With the activation of S phase CDK, DNA replication happens, and the activation of pre-replication complexes is carried out by S phase CDK. Now the cells to enter to the cells into the mitotic M phase, the mitotic CDKs need to be activated. CDC25 phosphatase activates mitotic CDKs, which activate early mitotic events. Then after that, there we will have one more important transition from metaphase to anaphase, in which APC CDC25 proteasome will degrade securin and will allow the proper separation of sister chromatids. Once sister chromatids are separated, we need to degrade or inactivate our mitotic cyclins to have proper telophase and cytokinesis. For the inactivation of mitotic cyclin CDKs, cyclins is mainly done by phosphatase activation of phosphatase like CD1, CDH1 and APCC CDH1. Now, after the discussing of molecular events happening during the cell cycle, let's see how the checkpoints mechanism is favorable in the passing of its as well as the crossing of its cell cycle checkpoint. As I already discussed in the previous class, we already know that there are three main checkpoints in the cell cycle. One is in the start, and next is in the G2M phase, and another one is in the metaphase to anaphase passing. So all of this is controlled by three mechanisms. First one is the passing of start or the restriction point is favored by extracellular membranes. G2M phase is response by DNA damage response, and anaphase to metaphase transition is controlled by spindle checkpoint. First, let's see how cells pass this restriction or start point. We already know that the passing of start point is influenced by extracellular molecules. Extracellular molecules are classified into three groups. The first one groups are known as growth factors, midogenes, as well as survival factors. Let's consider midogene as extracellular molecules. Midogenes binds to cell surface receptors to initiate intracellular signaling pathways. One of the major pathways involve activation of the small GTPase RAS, which activates a MAP kinase cascade, leading to increased expression of numerous immediate early genes, including the gene encoding the gene regulatory protein MYC. MYC increases the expression of many delay response genes, including some that lead to increased Z1 CDK activity, which triggers the phosphorylation of members of the RB family of proteins. This inactivates the RB proteins, freeing the gene regulatory protein E2F to activate transcription of G1S genes, including the genes 4A, G1S cyclin, and S cyclin. The resulting Z1S CDK and SCDK activities further enhance RB protein phosphorylation, forming a positive feedback loop. E8-2F proteins also stimulate the transcription of their own genes, forming another positive feedback loop. So let's see now the second checkpoint, which is controlled by the DNA damage. During Z1, the p53 and p21 pathway inhibits G1 CDKs. During ongoing DNA replication and in response to replication stress, the ATR-CK1 protein kinase cascades phosphorylates and inactivates CDC25, thereby preventing the activation of mitotic CDKs and inhibit entry into mitosis. In response to DNA damage, the ATM and ATR protein kinases inhibit CDC25 via the CHK1-2 protein kinases. They also activate p53, which induces protein production of the CKI-p21. During Z1, the DNA damage checkpoint pathways inhibits CDC25A, inhibiting Z1 S-phase CDKs and S-phase CDKs, thereby blocking entry into or passage through S-phase. During S2, ATMR and CHK1 inhibit CDC25C. The p53-p21 pathway is also activated. The spindle assembly checkpoint prevents entry into anaphase until every kinetochore of every chromatid is properly attached to spindle microtubules. If even a single kinetochore is unattached or not under tension, anaphase is inhibited. As such a defect would almost certainly lead to chromosome loss if mitosis ensues in its presence. To achieve this, cells harbor a surveillance mechanism that prevents anaphase entry in the presence of tensionless or unattached kinetochore. The spindle assembly checkpoint pathways recognizes unattached kinetochore. So let's see how this is happened by this pathway. The spindle assembly checkpoint is active until every single kinetochore has attached properly to spindle microtubules. When a kinetochore is unattached, the outer kinetochore component KLN1 is phosphorylated by the checkpoint kinase MSP. Phosphorylated KLN1 then binds the checkpoint kinase BUP1 and BUP3 and the checkpoint protein MET3. These three proteins in turn recruit the MET1 and MET2 complex to the kinetochore. The MET1 and MET2 complex bound to a kinetochore has the ability to convert inactive MET2 into the cytoplasm into active MET2 that is able to bind APC CDC20 and inhibit it. Complete inhibition of APC CDC20 requires the recruitment of the checkpoint factors BUP1, BUP3 and MET3 in the complex. Together these proteins form the mitotic checkpoint complex that prevents APC CDC20 from recognizing and ubiquitinating its substrates. Silencing of the spindle assembly checkpoint pathways occur once all kinetochores have attached to microtubules in a tension-generating manner. Protein phosphatase 1 then dephosphorylates KLN1, thereby eliminating checkpoint protein binding sites at kinetochore. In addition, P33 comet disassembles the mitotic checkpoint complex. In budding yeast, CDC protein phosphatase activity is required for exit from mitosis. During interphase and early mitosis, CDC14 is sequestered and inactivated in the nucleus. Inactive TEM1 GDP associates with the spindle pole body nearest to the bud as soon as the mitotic spindle forms. If chromosome segregation occurs properly, extension of the spindle microtubules inserts the daughter SPB into the bud, causing TM1 to be activated by an unknown mechanism. TM1 GDP activates a protein kinase cascade which then promotes the release of the active CDC protein from the nucleolus and exit from the mitosis. If the spindle apparatus fails to place the daughter SBP in the bud stage, KIN4, an inhibitor of TEM1, is recruited from the parent cell cortex to the parent cell located SBP and maintains TEM1 in the GDB bound form, and mitotic exit does not occur. LET1 is an inhibitor of KIN4 and is localized to the bud. LET1 prevents KIN4 and that leaks into the bud from inhibiting TEM1. If the checkpoint fails, cells with mispositioned spindles improperly exit mitosis and produce a nucleate and multinucleate cell.